Most people think an empath is soft, quiet, easy to break, easy to manipulate. But there is one type of empath that even narcissists fear. One type that walks into a room and instantly shifts the energy without saying a single word. A rare soul that was born to expose lies, destroy fake masks, and mirror people so deeply that they become terrified of themselves. This is the Heyoka. And if these signs describe you, your entire life will suddenly start making sense. Because you were never too sensitive, you were never too different, you were never crazy, you were powerful in a world that survives through deception. And the scary part is, most Heyokas don't even realize what they are until later in life. After years of confusion, isolation, betrayal, and emotional battles nobody else could survive. Here are 7 signs you are a Heyoka, the most powerful empath of them all. Number 1. You naturally expose fake people without trying. This is the first thing people notice about a Heyoka. You don't chase lies, you don't investigate people, you simply stand near them, and suddenly they become uncomfortable. Because your energy acts like a mirror. Fake people can survive around normal people, but around a Heyoka, their mask starts cracking. They begin over-explaining themselves, acting nervous, becoming defensive for no reason. And the strangest part? You often don't even know what you did. Your presence alone forces hidden truths to rise to the surface. That's why manipulators either obsess over you or hate you instantly. Because you trigger something they spend their whole life hiding. A Heyoka sees energy before words, intentions before actions, darkness before behavior. People may fool everyone else, but they can't fool your nervous system. Your soul detects emotional distortion immediately. And this is why your life has probably been filled with strange reactions from people. Some become deeply attached to you instantly, while others become threatened for absolutely no reason. Because your energy exposes reality, and people who live behind masks fear reality more than anything. Number 2. You use humor to destroy tension and reveal truth. Most empaths absorb emotional energy, but a Heyoka transforms it. You've probably noticed this your entire life. In the middle of conflict, pain, or emotional heaviness, you suddenly say something unexpected. Something sharp, funny, uncomfortable, but deeply true. And everyone freezes. Because Heyokas use humor like a psychological weapon. Not to entertain, but to awaken people. Your jokes often carry hidden truth inside them. And sometimes people laugh, then later realize you exposed their entire personality in one sentence. This is why many Heyokas are misunderstood. People think you're joking, but your soul is actually revealing reality through irony. You can walk into toxic energy and flip it upside down instantly. Because unlike others, you are not controlled by emotional chaos. You disrupt it. And toxic people hate this about you. Because they can manipulate sadness, fear, guilt, but they cannot manipulate someone who sees through the emotional game completely. That's why narcissists become extremely uncomfortable around Heyokas. The most dangerous thing about a Heyoka is not strength, it is awareness. Because while most people only hear words, a Heyoka feels energy. And energy never lies. That's why fake people become uncomfortable around you before you even speak. They can sense something inside you that threatens the character they worked so hard to build. A Heyoka does not see the mask first. A Heyoka sees the crack behind the mask. And this is exactly why your life has probably felt so strange. You walk into a room and instantly feel tension nobody else notices. You meet someone smiling at you, but your soul feels darkness behind their kindness. You hear compliments, but inside, something tells you the words are poisoned. Most people ignore those feelings, but Heyokas cannot, because your nervous system was built to detect emotional truth, and that truth scares people more than hate ever could. A liar can survive around blind people, but they panic around someone who sees clearly. That's why certain people dislike you immediately. Not because you harmed them, not because you attacked them, but because your energy silently challenged the illusion they created. You expose people without trying, without confrontation, without aggression, without effort. Your presence alone acts like psychological pressure, and fake people begin collapsing under it. Have you ever noticed how manipulative people suddenly become defensive around you? how they over-explain themselves when nobody asked, how they try too hard to appear good in your presence. That is not random. Their subconscious feels exposed, because Heyokas mirror hidden truth back to people. You force people to face themselves, and most humans spend their entire lives avoiding exactly that. People say they want honesty, until honesty stands in front of them. People say they value truth, until truth looks directly into their soul. That is when fear begins. Because the Heyoka sees contradictions instantly. You notice when someone's words and energy don't match. You notice fake humility, fake confidence, fake love, fake spirituality, fake loyalty. You see the emotional performance beneath the personality. And what makes this terrifying is, you often notice it within seconds, before evidence, before proof, before logic catches up. Your intuition speaks first. And almost every Heyoka has ignored this intuition at least once, only to regret it later. Because deep down, you knew from the beginning. You felt the manipulation. You sensed the jealousy. You detected the hidden resentment. But you gave people the benefit of the doubt because your heart was pure. And toxic people survive by feeding off pure hearts. That's why Heyokas attract narcissists so often. Not because you are weak, but because your light exposes their darkness. Narcissists are addicted to control. They survive by manipulating emotions, twisting reality, creating illusions. But the Heyoka unconsciously destroys illusions. And that makes you incredibly dangerous to them. A manipulator can control someone who doubts themselves, but they cannot fully control someone who feels truth instinctively. That's why narcissists become obsessed with Heyokas. At first, they admire your depth. They feel hypnotized by your emotional intelligence. Your authenticity feels rare to them because they spend their whole life pretending. But eventually, your awareness becomes unbearable. Because the more time they spend around you, the more exposed they feel. You begin noticing patterns, inconsistencies, hidden motives. You start asking questions they cannot answer comfortably. And even when you remain silent, your energy alone starts disrupting their emotional control. That's why toxic people often try to destroy the Heyoka emotionally. Not because you are weak, but because you threaten their false identity. People attack what exposes them. Remember that. A Heyoka often becomes the target of projection. People accuse you of being too intense, too sensitive, too observant, too complicated. But what they really mean is, you make me uncomfortable, because I cannot hide around you. And this is one of the loneliest parts of being a Heyoka. You spend years feeling misunderstood, years wondering why people react so strongly to you, years questioning yourself because others make you feel like the problem. But the truth is, you were never difficult to understand. You were difficult to deceive. And there is a massive difference. Most of society rewards performance. People wear masks to survive socially. They fake confidence while feeling empty, fake happiness while feeling broken, fake loyalty while secretly competing. But the Heyoka sees through emotional theater immediately. That's why superficial environments drain you. Small talk exhausts you because your soul craves authenticity. Fake friendships make you feel emotionally sick. Forced energy overwhelms your nervous system, because deep inside, your soul is searching for something real. And realness is rare in this world. Very rare. This is also why Heyokas unintentionally awaken people. Not everyone who meets you will hate you. Some people will feel deeply understood for the first time in their life. Because authentic souls recognize authentic energy instantly. Healed people feel calm around Heyokas. Broken but honest people feel seen around Heyokas. People who are tired of pretending feel safe around you. Why? Because your energy silently gives them permission to stop performing, to stop lying, to stop hiding, to stop wearing emotional armor. And many people cry around Heyokas without understanding why. Because your presence reaches parts of them they buried years ago. That is power. Not loud power. Not ego power. Not controlling power. Soul power. The kind of power that changes people without force. And most Heyokas don't realize how powerful they are until later in life. Because for years, you probably saw your sensitivity as weakness. You wondered why you absorb so much emotionally. Why crowded rooms drain you. Why certain people instantly exhaust you. Why your intuition feels louder than logic. But your sensitivity was never a curse. It was perception. You were reading emotional frequencies other people ignored. You were detecting hidden danger before it appeared physically. You were sensing emotional poison beneath human behavior. And once a Heyoka learns to trust this gift, everything changes. You stop ignoring red flags. Stop doubting your intuition. Stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. You begin protecting your energy like your life depends on it. Because eventually, you realize something terrifying. Most people are not disturbed by evil. They are disturbed by exposure. And the Heyoka is exposure in human form. That is why your silence intimidates people. Your eye contact unsettles them. Your questions make them nervous. Even your calmness becomes threatening, because manipulative people rely on emotional reactions to maintain control. But a healed Heyoka cannot be manipulated easily. You observe more than you react. You listen more than you speak. And the more emotionally mature you become, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because real power does not scream. It sees. It understands. It exposes. And the scariest part of all, a Heyoka can sense truth, even when the entire world believes the lie. A normal person experiences pain and becomes weaker. A Heyoka experiences pain and transforms. That is the difference. Because the life of a Heyoka was never meant to be easy. It was meant to awaken you. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every moment of abandonment, every silent night where you felt completely alone, was shaping something dangerous inside you. Not dangerous in an evil way, dangerous in a powerful way. Because suffering changes a Heyoka differently than it changes other people. Most people let pain close their eyes. A Heyoka's pain opens them. That's why your life probably feels divided into different versions of yourself. The innocent version, the broken version, the angry version, the isolated version, the awakened version. And each painful chapter destroyed another illusion. You trusted people, and they betrayed you. You loved deeply, and they used your heart against you. You stayed loyal, while others secretly competed with you. You gave people understanding, and they repaid you with manipulation. And slowly, you started seeing human nature differently, not in a hateful way, in a realistic way. Because a Heyoka eventually realizes something most people never understand. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. That realization changes everything, especially after years of being emotionally drained by toxic people. The painful truth is, Heyokas often become emotional homes for wounded souls. Broken people are naturally attracted to your energy. Traumatized people feel safe around you. Lost people feel understood by you. But manipulative people also notice your empathy. And they mistake your kindness for weakness. They think your forgiveness means you will tolerate disrespect forever. They think your patience means you cannot see what they're doing. But pain eventually teaches the Heyoka boundaries. Brutal boundaries. The kind that are built from survival. And once a Heyoka learns those boundaries, their entire energy changes. You stop chasing people. Stop begging to be understood. Stop explaining your heart to people committed to misunderstanding you. Because suffering teaches you something powerful. Your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves to touch it. This lesson usually comes after repeated emotional destruction, after being betrayed by the people you trusted most, after loving people who only loved your healing energy, after realizing some people only come close to drain your light. That realization hurts deeply. Because Heyokas naturally want to see the good in others. You give second chances, third chances, sometimes even 10 chances. Not because you are naive, but because your heart understands pain. You know what brokenness feels like, so you try to save people from their darkness. But eventually, life forces you to understand a painful truth. Some people do not want healing. They want control. And the moment a Heyoka realizes this, everything changes internally. You become quieter, more selective, more observant. Your circle becomes smaller. Your trust becomes sacred. And people start saying things like, "You changed. You became cold. You used to be softer." But what they call coldness is actually self-respect. Because the old version of you tolerated things that destroyed your soul. The awakened version no longer does. Pain sharpened your awareness. You now recognize emotional manipulation faster. You notice energy shifts instantly. You feel dishonesty before words even arrive. And the scary part is, every painful experience strengthened your intuition. Every betrayal upgraded your pattern recognition. Every heartbreak made your spirit harder to deceive. That's why Heyokas become extremely powerful later in life. Not because life was kind to them, but because life forced them to evolve. Most people collapse under repeated emotional pain. A Heyoka adapts. You learn how to survive loneliness, how to survive rejection, how to survive emotional abandonment. And after surviving those things repeatedly, you stop fearing them. That is when true power begins. Because the world controls people through fear. Fear of being alone, fear of losing relationships, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. But once a Heyoka survives all of those fears, control disappears. And suddenly, you become emotionally dangerous to manipulative people, because they can no longer threaten you with the things that once broke you. You already survived them. That's why healed Heyokas carry a calm intensity that people can feel instantly. There is pain inside you, but it is organized now. There is darkness inside you, but it no longer controls you. There is wisdom inside you that could only be earned through suffering. And people feel this the moment they meet you. Your energy becomes different after awakening. Less desperate, less reactive, less eager for validation. You stop needing everyone to understand you, because pain taught you something powerful. Most people only understand you from their level of awareness, and many people will never reach yours. That realization frees you emotionally. You stop shrinking yourself to make insecure people comfortable. You stop dimming your intelligence, your intuition, your emotional depth. Because after everything life put you through, you finally understand your value. And the strange part is, the more pain a Heyoka survives, the calmer they become. Not weaker, calmer. Because you begin understanding human behavior deeply. You realize most toxic people are deeply wounded themselves. Most manipulators are emotionally empty. Most narcissists are terrified internally. And once you see this clearly, you stop taking their behavior personally. You see through the performance. That awareness creates emotional detachment. Not cruel detachment, wise detachment. The kind that protects your peace. And peace becomes extremely important to a Heyoka after awakening. Because your entire life probably felt emotionally chaotic. Too much energy. Too much emotional noise. Too many draining people. But suffering eventually teaches you to protect your nervous system, like survival itself. You become careful with who enters your life, because you now understand something most people ignore. Energy transfers. And a Heyoka absorbs emotional environments deeply. That's why fake people exhaust you. Chaotic people drain you. Negative people make your soul feel heavy. Your nervous system reacts to emotional toxicity instantly. And after enough suffering, you stop apologizing for protecting yourself. You no longer feel guilty for walking away from draining people. You no longer sacrifice your peace to save people determined to self-destruct. Because pain matured your empathy. The younger version of you tried to rescue everyone. The awakened version understands, not everyone can be saved. Some people must face themselves alone. And this wisdom changes the entire direction of your life. You stop forcing connections. Stop chasing closure. Stop trying to convince people to value you. Because pain taught you the most powerful lesson of all. Real love never requires self-betrayal. And once a Heyoka fully understands that, they become unstoppable. Not because they seek revenge, not because they become heartless, but because they finally stop abandoning themselves for others. And the moment a Heyoka chooses themselves after years of suffering, their energy becomes almost impossible to break. Most people think power is loud. They think powerful people dominate conversations, control rooms, demand attention, force others to listen. But the Heyoka understands something terrifying. Real power is silent, because silence reveals what noise hides. And this is why your presence affects people so deeply, even when you barely speak. A Heyoka does not need to perform to be noticed. Your energy speaks before your words ever do. People feel something around you they cannot explain. Some feel calm. Some feel exposed. Some feel emotional without understanding why. And many leave conversations with you thinking about themselves differently. Because the Heyoka does not simply communicate, the Heyoka activates reflection. You awaken hidden emotions inside people without trying. That is your power. And the strange part is, You probably spent years underestimating it. You thought your silence meant weakness. You thought being quiet meant people overlooked you. But in reality, people were studying you the entire time. Because silence makes humans uncomfortable, especially honest silence. Most people use constant talking to avoid themselves. Noise becomes distraction. Distraction becomes escape. But a Heyoka's silence removes escape. When you truly look at someone, listen deeply to them, observe without reacting, people begin revealing themselves automatically. Because silence creates psychological pressure, and manipulative people fear silence the most. Why? Because silence forces truth to rise. That's why narcissists talk excessively around emotionally aware people. They over-explain, overshare, control conversations, interrupt constantly. Because deep down, they are terrified of being seen clearly. But the Heyoka sees clearly without effort. Your calmness becomes a mirror, and mirrors scare people living behind masks. Have you ever noticed how people confess strange things to you? Sometimes within minutes of meeting you, people reveal secrets, traumas, hidden emotions, pain they never tell anyone else. And afterward, they often look shocked themselves. Because your energy makes people feel emotionally exposed, not judged, seen. There is a huge difference. Most people fear judgment, but what humans fear even more is complete emotional visibility. And the Heyoka creates exactly that. Your presence reaches places people normally keep hidden, the loneliness they suppress, the guilt they avoid, the insecurity they cover with confidence. You feel what lives beneath the personality. That's why eye contact from a Heyoka feels intense. Because you are not only looking at someone's face, you are feeling their emotional reality. And emotionally disconnected people become deeply uncomfortable around that level of awareness. But emotionally honest people feel safe with you instantly. Because for the first time in their life, they feel understood without needing to explain themselves. That is why Heyokas often become unforgettable to people. Not because you seek attention, but because your energy creates emotional impact. Some people leave your presence inspired. Some leave disturbed. Some suddenly start questioning their relationships, their behavior, their life choices. Because the Heyoka awakens self-awareness naturally, and self-awareness changes everything. This is why toxic people either obsess over Heyokas or avoid them completely. There is rarely a middle ground because your energy forces emotional truth to the surface. A manipulative person can survive around distraction, but they struggle around awareness. And the more emotionally healed a Heyoka becomes, the stronger this effect becomes. Your silence starts carrying weight. Not empty silence, observant silence, controlled silence. The kind of silence that makes people reveal themselves while you simply watch. That's why emotionally immature people often misread Heyokas. They think your calmness means passiveness. Until they realize too late, you noticed everything. Every inconsistency, every fake smile, every hidden motive, every emotional shift. A Heyoka speaks less because they observe more. And observation creates deep understanding of human nature. That understanding becomes wisdom. You begin recognizing patterns instantly. You can sense insecurity hidden behind arrogance. You can feel jealousy hidden behind compliments. You can detect emotional manipulation hidden behind kindness. And because you notice these things so quickly, people often feel psychologically exposed around you. Even when you say nothing, that is the frightening part. Your silence alone becomes confrontational to fake people, because your energy quietly says, I see through you. And humans become defensive whenever they feel seen too clearly. That's why some people randomly dislike you before knowing you. Your energy activates their hidden discomfort. You unconsciously trigger self-awareness. And people who avoid self-awareness often attack the mirror instead of facing themselves. But healed souls react differently. Authentic people feel peace around Heyokas. Because your silence does not pressure them to perform. They can finally relax. No pretending, no masks, no emotional games, just truth. And truth feels healing to emotionally exhausted people. That's why many people become emotionally attached to Heyokas very quickly. Your presence feels rare, especially in a world filled with fake personalities and shallow interactions. Most people are desperate to be deeply understood, and the Heyoka understands people beyond words. You listen to energy. You notice emotional contradictions. You feel pain people try to hide. And because of this, your advice often changes people deeply. Not because your words are magical, but because your words come from deep perception. You speak directly to the hidden wound. That's why people remember conversations with you for years. A single sentence from a Heyoka can stay inside someone's mind forever. Because truth hits differently when it comes from someone who truly sees you. And the older a Heyoka becomes, the less they need to prove themselves. This is where their true power fully activates. You stop chasing validation. Stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop forcing your truth onto blind minds. You realize something powerful. Awakened people do not waste energy convincing the asleep. So you become more silent, more intentional, more emotionally disciplined. And strangely, that silence makes your presence even more powerful. Because people begin sensing depth inside you they cannot fully access. You become emotionally unreadable to manipulative people. And this terrifies them. Because manipulators survive through emotional control. But they cannot control what they cannot fully understand. That's why your detachment becomes magnetic. Your calmness becomes intimidating. Your emotional control becomes unforgettable. And eventually, you stop fearing loneliness completely. Because